What's up, guys? Craig Mack here, Liberty Bell Beekeepers. I think you can see me. I hope I'm in frame. I'm not going to edit it. So I got this problem that's not unique, but I do a lot of cutouts, and I always end up with a lot of honey. Not always, but I end up with a lot of honey, but a lot of it's comb honey, like this. And it's got bees, and it's completely waxed. Now, I'm not putting it back into the frames and adding it to the colony because it'll start just a robbing revolution, but I have a lot of honey in these buckets. So what I did is I made myself basically a simple, like a fruit press. Designs for these are all over the place. You can find them pretty easily. So let me show you what I got going on here. So obviously I got my honey bucket ready. I got a 400 micron bag in it. Coop, get out of there. This honey is not going back to any people. This is honey I'll feed back to the bees or make mead with. So I don't mind a little bit of dog slobber in it. So I got my comb honey. I got my honey bucket, 400 micron bag in it. This is the framework for the press. Just a simple 2x6. It's all I had laying around the shop. All this stuff I just had laying around, so I decided to make this just because I had stuff I could use. I welded a nut onto this 1-inch square tube you can see there on the bottom. Holds a 1/2-inch threaded rod, and I also welded a nut on the top of that so I can use an impact driver to drive the screw down. The screw will land on top of this plunger. This is vinyl PVC, cellular PVC sheeting that I just cut a few rounds out of and added a top plunger and a screw in the top of the hole to act as a buffer between the material and the screw as the press works. So here's the press bucket. Now you can make these out of a bunch of different things, but I had buckets and I always have buckets, so I made it out of buckets. Basically it's 5 buckets. I'm sorry, it's 4 buckets stacked on top of one another, and then you cut the bottom and fasten them together with these wires here that's drilled through all of the different buckets, and it is connecting all 4 buckets. In between, technically it is 5 buckets because this bottom ring right here is just a bottom ring like this of a bucket that the center was cut out of to act as a spacer between these buckets because they were a little bit different sizes. And then as you can see on the inside, I put 4 layers of this black mesh material that actually came with my uncapping tank, and I didn't use it in there because I filter it out of the spigot and not as it's falling through the uncapping tank. So I used 4 layers of that, and there is 1 layer of 1/8-inch hardware cloth in the middle of it. I felt like the plastic, I know, moves, but I wanted to have that metal backing in there to give it a little bit more stability as I'm pushing down through it. That's wired in as well. So I'll add my wax to the bucket. I got this other bucket and this other piece of bucket that acts just as a catch for any honey that drips down. So I'll just take these pieces of wax and comb, and I'm going to place them inside of this bucket here. Now, if you get a decent colony cutout, you can end up with a nice amount of honey for all kinds of things. If you do it right, you can certainly bottle it, filter it and bottle it. You can feed it back to your own bees. You can do whatever you want with it. Like I said, I'm actually selling some of this for a mead, someone who makes mead. So he doesn't care if it's a little bit fermented or if it's not all honey, and it is also, you know, nectar as well. These buckets, this was extracted about 4 or 5, probably about 5 weeks ago, and it's been in these sealed buckets ever since. And a lot of the honey has dripped out. As you can see, this bucket is, got honey that's just laying in it. From the obvious nature of cutouts, you can't keep it all sealed. So I make sure I always have plenty of buckets handy for extractions. Now I'm getting to the point where I can't even pull this comb out of here, so I'm going to end up dumping a lot of this in. I'm going to set my tripod up and get you a front row view of the action. This is my hound dog Cooper. It's coming up on a year since I got my little man. He's not so little. Should have a bucket of water with me. Do not. But that might sink. Rinse my hand. I'll get money all over everything. Come on, get out of there. So I'm going to go ahead and try to dump some of this out. Whoa, there it goes. Now there's a big mess of honey right there. Cooper's a fan. He likes the honey. As you can see, there's, just these. This is just all capped honey that came from cutouts that I just stacked in this bucket. And at this point, it is just completely stuck together and completely full of honey. So now I got that set. I'm going to place this up and into my press. I have it marked out on my boards here. That really just dripped honey all over my dog. He's a honey hound now. That was really dumb. I just completely drenched my dog in honey. Now he needs a bath. This is a little bit crude. I'm going to do a better setup of this, but I always like to do a trial run and make a little mess and see how things work, and if they're going to work, and if I have to change my design up. And you can see there's a bunch of honey right in there just from that couple seconds. So I made this to, like I said, press out comb honey. Because I do, like I said, do a lot of cutouts, and I don't always have time to do all the little things. So I was hoping that this would kind of expedite the process for me a bit. So, if you don't know how a press works, this screw is going to drive down on this plunger, and it's going to press the honey out of the wax and into this bucket. Like I said, I welded this nut on top so I can use a driver. It's a bit noisy, I know. And as you can see, it is doing its job. It is pushing that honey. I'm going to give this a little bit of time. You can see the plunger's not exactly square, so I'll probably back that out and straighten it up again and get it to press this wax flat. That probably will involve me having to get into the bucket again and rearrange that comb. But it's working. It's doing what I needed it to do relatively cleanly. I'm going to do some different things with this, but like I said, I wanted to do a trial run, test it out, see if it's going to work, and so far so good as far as the honey press. I don't know what kind of wax I'll get out of it. I won't know that until I lift the bag out of the bucket, but